Hi, I'm Aurora Dazzle, and well, you guys want to know how to animate guns, huh? Well, don't worry, I can help you with that. First off, we're going to learn how to do the reloading sounds. We're going to do the reloading sounds, and then we're going to do the fire sounds before we move on to Unity stuff. So for the reloading sounds, you could easily record the guns reloading inside the game, or you could make it yourself, like what I'm going to do here. Now, if you're using a recording from inside the game, just cut it out from the game audio. Or the recording's audio. It's pretty obvious there. But if you're making something like I am, well, then I'm going to show you a method which I use. Not really. I'm skipping this part because it's not necessary. Just proceed to make a reload sound for your gun, and then move on. So next we move on to the firing sounds. And first off, we're going to go into automatic weapon sounds. So weapons that go and continue doing that until they run out of ammo. You know, the machine guns. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it in two methods. So first off, we're going to go ahead and use a recording of a gun sound. So let's use Medal of Honor weapon sounds. Let me just import that. Okay, so I've imported my recording. Not really my recording, but you can use any recording from the game. But I want to use a recording from Medal of Honor to create a automatic weapon sound. Here is an automatic sound I found that is of an M4. And we're going to use this as a base. Even though I already have this cut out in an audio clip and looped, I'm going to use this. So first thing you want to do is you want to take out the silence to the first gunshot. The delay between the first gunshot and the beginning of the clip, take that out so that it's only the gunshot in the first second. So there we go. It loops seamlessly. And if you repeat it, you can't even tell that repeated. Make sure to save it as a WAV file or a WAV file, because it loops seamlessly. MP3s will add a short period of silence at the end or beginning of the file, which will cause it to not loop seamlessly. For single shot and burst weapons, simply cut out the sound of the gun, firing once or the gun firing multiple times, and then save as a WAV as you would with the fire loop. Okay, so we're basically done with sounds. We're going to move on to Unity now. Okay, I'm in my Unity. And I'm going to show you how to animate 3 different types of weapons. Make that one type of weapon, but kind of applies to all weapons. So technically, yes. So first, we'll cover reload animations. We'll cover the reload animations with mag-fed weapons, which is what you're mostly going to be using when it comes to Halo weapons. And everyone basically knows how a shotgun works, so I won't really have to show you the reload on this one. But I'm going to show you how to do it on the mag-fed weapons, which are common. So, before we animate this, make sure you know how the gun works. If it's from a video game, take a look at how the gun reloads, like where they put the magazine or the clip. Make sure that the magazine, I don't know why it's called a magazine, okay? It's not made of paper, but make sure it's separate. If it's a gun that uses a clip, make sure the clip is separate. The reason you need it to be a separate mesh is because you need to be able to have it in your left hand when you take out the magazine or when you drop it as a mesh particle system. But I don't really show you how to do that in this tutorial, so you really don't need to. But if you really want to know, simply make a particle system that's a world particle, make it collide with stuff, and then make it a mesh particle system in the renderer and make the magazine the mesh. Another thing is, make sure, depending on if the gun uses it or not, make sure that the bolt, which is this thing here, and the charging handle, which is this thing here, are also either separate or are a bone that is connected to it. So yeah, that's really the only requirements. So first off, we're going to go ahead and put an empty game object inside the gun, and then we're going to move it to where the sounds of the gun reloading will be coming from. And since all the action's happening around here for an M4A1, I'll put that right there. And I'm going to name it Reload. You don't have to. Name it whatever the hell you want. I'm just naming it reload. Next, you want to put the reload sound, the audio, onto the object. Once you're done with that, what you want to do is you want to go to the game object and you want to go ahead and drag your audio clip, where is it, into the game object. And there you go, you have an audio on the game object and you're ready to go. Not really. Make sure you set the settings to 3D and set the Doppler level to 0 so it doesn't sound funny when you're reloading it. Make sure the distance is set to a reasonable distance, however far you want people to hear your reload sound. Make sure you set the volume to how loud or quiet you want the reload to be depending on the gun. And that's just about it. Turn the reload object off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to head to the gun and we're going to go ahead and make some animations. I've already made animations for this gun, but we're going to ignore them, so we're just going to make some new ones. Create animation, right click, create animation, and then you'll have a new animation. I'm going to name this fire because this is going to be used for firing, then copy paste that and reload because it's going to be used for reloading. Next up, you create an animator controller, which is right above the animation in the create list. And rename this to whatever you want. You can honestly name these whatever the hell you want, but I name it corresponding to the animation clip that it is bound to. Make sure you have an animator tab. Usually it's automatically in the scene, but if it's not there, you could always just go to Window at the top and then go to Animator right here. Click on one of the animator controllers and drag in the corresponding animation. Okay? And then the same for the reload. And there you go. Both the fire and the reload animation have the animations bounded to them. And then here we go. We drag in the reload animation because we're going over the reload right now. So now we're going to drag. No, so now you drag the reload into the gun. Drag drop. Simple, simple. You're probably rolling your eyes at me and thinking I'm an idiot. Like I said before, make sure you know how the gun works, because there's going to be some jackass that comes up to you and says, "That's not how it works!" And then you can be like, "No, that is how it works. You're wrong." I'm going to show you an example with an M4A1. Most people already know how it works. If you don't, you'll find out, I guess. So on the first frame, this is the 0 frame, that's what I call it. On the first frame, turn on the reload object. Why do I do this? Because you're going to need to listen to the reload a lot when you're syncing it up with the sound you made. Alright, now that you have the reload object on, and get animating, silly. I'm skipping this part, and I'm going to make a separate video where I make examples of how I animate so you can animate easily. Just animate the weapon as how it would in the game. So as you can see, it's not synced with the sound. What you will need to do to sync the sound is constantly listen to the reload sound as you animate and just kind of do a trial and error until the actions in the animation sync up with audio. So if you synced everything right, it should sync up with the sounds. For animating the weapons firing, what you need to do is you need to do the same exact thing, but listen to the rate of fire of the regular weapon as your template. And make sure if it's an automatic weapon, make sure the animation loops time. And if it's a burst or single fire, then make sure to have the animation loop time unchecked. Be sure to place the firing sound on the muzzle of the gun or wherever it would be emitting from the actual gun itself. If it's an automatic weapon, set the sound to loop. If it's not, then keep it unchecked. So I'm going to show you how to apply these different types of guns to your avatar. Now for applying it to the avatar, what I would recommend doing is that here's what I do. I copy and paste this 2 times, delete everything that's not related to the reload or fire animation. So everything that's unrelated, like the main body of the gun, because that's not being animated, it's the bolt that's being animated for the firing, or the magazine and the charging handle for the reload. I'm going to name this components, because that's what I do, and then I create an empty game object named. What I'm basically saying here in this section is create an empty game object and then put the animated components inside of the empty game object. This makes it easier for you to animate gestures on your avatar, because if you click on anything that has an animator on it that's not the avatar's animator, it quickly cancels out whatever you're doing and switches to that animator instead, if you get me. You don't have to do this, but I just do this to make it easier. So when I'm firing, I turn on these components, and then I turn off the components that correspond to the regular model. So I'll turn off these, and they'll get replaced by this. Sort of like a switcheroo type of thing. So it looks like it starts animating without me having to need another model. If your model doesn't have these things separate, you can go ahead and just copy paste the model and then put the reloading and firing animations on them, and then you could just turn off the standard gun and then turn on the firing or the reloading gun. And while it will take up more polys, if it's not separate, you could just do that. It's fine. Man, I feel like there's gonna be so many goddamn questions coming at me about what I say in here, because I don't exactly word what I say the best, and sometimes it can confuse people, and I even confuse myself sometimes. I'm kind of dumb. I'll be honest, I'm kind of retarded. It should look like this. From here, what you want to do is you want to put world particles on the gun barrel or wherever the particles you come out of. So everything from the bullets to the muzzle flashes, the bullet shells, make sure they're all in position where they should be on the gun. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and put the gun in my hand. So make sure the gun is properly sized, by the way. Make sure the size fits in your hands, so in your life. There you go. So there is your gun. It's in your hand. From here, you will apply the world particles to your avatar, so you'll drag the particles out and use rigid bias to attach it to the right hand and all that stuff. Okay, so I have everything in place. I place the gun on my right hand. It's disabled. And then I have the world particles done as well with the rigid bodies. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to create more animations. This time it's for your avatar controller. You want to create fire, equip, and reload. So what I do is I have an equip animation where I take out the gun, and this is basically just me holding it. A firing animation for me shooting it, and the reload animation for me reloading it. We'll put the animations wherever you want, really. I'm just putting these where I usually put them for my combat avatars. Now I'm going to show you how to make the guns animate, and basically what you do on the gestures for animating. Okay, so for equipping the gun, make sure you turn on just the gun, and that's it. You just turn on the gun, that's literally it. I usually animate the fingers at this time, but I'm going to skip that because, well, it'd be too time consuming, and it's basically just animating the fingers to sit in the right place. And also, make sure that the animation is about more than 1 frame long, or 1 frame long, so it's going to be the 0 frame at the beginning, and then the 1 frame, and that's it. If you make it any longer, it'll bug out the gestures on VRChat, and it'll just be a nuisance to use. Proceed to do the exact same thing for the reloading animation and firing animation. But for the reloading animation, you turn off everything associated with the reloading. Essentially, turn off all moving objects or any animated objects that are used for the animation, like the magazine or charging handle. And then you want to turn on the reload components. So it should look like this. When you reload it, it should look like this. There you go. For firing it, you basically do the exact same thing. And you just turn on the firing components and turn off everything associated on the normal model with firing. There you go. Make sure you turn on the sounds. Then turn on your world particles. There you go. And there you go. That's basically how you do it. That is how you make animated weapons for avatars. If anything I said in the video was confusing at all or have questions about, tell me. If you think the entire video is confusing, I'll try and make a follow-up when I have time. One of the things I did mention in the video was taking the mag in your left hand so you can put it in your right. That's very simple. You take the magazine out of the gun as a separate mesh, and you animate that mesh to appear at the time you grab it and disappear at the time you put it in the gun. and then you put that animated magazine into your left hand, or whatever hand you're using to reload the gun with. And then you turn on the animated magazine that's in your left hand when you do the reload gesture. And I said this earlier in the video, if you want the magazine to drop, make a world particle system, make sure it collides with things, and set the particle renderer to be set as a mesh. And then you put in the magazine as the mesh. If the magazine is different parts, you might have to combine it in Blender or some other 3D program.